brothers and sisters, let me tell you, this is how valuable you are. I think the universe would hide you in its pockets so that you would never be scratched and never receive a ding or a dent.
I'm preaching you just like I would have in the old days, just minus a few characters in the story.
There's no mention of God or Jesus.
Can I get a Darwin?
Prepare yourself for a journey of discovery. The book has been written, the speeches have been done, and now it is time to go between the pages with Jerry DeWitt and Bobby C. Today's date is June 2nd, 2016. This is Hope After Faith. My name is Bobby C., and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, the one and the only, Mr. Jerry D.
It's a pleasure to be here again tonight, Bobby. What a absolute thrill.
I'm telling you, man.
It's great. It's honestly the funnest thing that I've done in the whole last 5 years of being in the secular movement. This
Really?
is absolutely, it is my best. I've told dozens of people now, just over the last 3 weeks, that if I don't end up doing anything else, this is more than enough. It's great. It's honest. Much more than enough.
I agree. You know, I have said on many occasions that podcasting is one of the things that I have in my life that I truly, truly look forward to. I really do.
Well, you're already wanting to add like 15 more shows a week.
Yeah. Look, I would do a show every day if I knew we had the time and the content. I think we've got the content, but
Sure.
but having the time is a totally different ballgame. But
It is.
I would do a show every day. I truly would. I love
It's
it.
that exciting. It is
is.
a way of connecting with the movement. It's a way of connecting with our secular family that is very, very difficult to describe. If you haven't experienced it, there's this odd intimacy about it. You know, especially the way that you've got it worked out, that we're doing these shows live. It's special. I'm not exaggerating when I say this is by far my favorite thing to do.
I couldn't agree more. Guys, if you want to get your questions or comments on the air, you can live tweet during the show at Hope After Faith, or you can join us in the chat room on Spreaker.com. I see that we have Todd and Wendy. They are already joining us in the chat room, and it's good to see you guys in there. And if this is your first time hearing the show, we want to welcome you, and we hope that you enjoy what you hear. And by all means, join us in the chat room. We'd love to see you. As you notice by the name of this week's episode, we're going to be talking about how Father knows how to hurt me best. I think this is going to be a deep conversation, Jerry.
I think it will. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little afraid of it.
Yeah.
I hope that the listeners aren't turned off by this level of honesty. I know that they're not. I know that by and large they're here for this level of honesty.
Yeah.
But I'm a little afraid of it, just because this is a subject that touches kind of the wellspring of my personality, and I know that it does the same thing for you. So when we dig this deep, we've talked about being naked before. We will definitely be naked during this episode. That's for sure.
Yeah, this is probably one of the hardest topics for me to dive into. Because when we talk about, having abusive fathers, I mean, we're diving into some very, very deep and emotional topic that can easily become very, very, very emotional for me. So if nothing else, guys, you're going to get, I think, a side to Jerry and I that we probably don't expose too often, even to those who know us well. So you're in for a doozy.
I think so, and I think it's important that the two of us are together for this show, because I think we're coming at this from two very different directions. Mm-hmm. When people, if they don't already know your story, when they find out about your story and the level of abuse that you survived and overcame, that's going to be phenomenal for them. I think they're going to truly be, their jaws will drop. They're going to be shocked at because you don't, not that there's not trying to be stereotypical or any way, but you don't carry yourself. When someone sees you, they don't immediately think, oh, well, this is a person who was, horribly mistreated as a child. You carry yourself with a lot of strength. You carry yourself with a lot of confidence. You have an attraction to people and for people, and you don't look as if you've had to survive being crushed.
Yeah.
You don't look that way at all. And when you first started just giving out little hints of what your experience was, I was one of those people who was shocked, who was truly shocked at what you had survived.
Well, I think the thing for me is it came down to refusing to let that defeat me. Now, trust me, folks, I am secure enough to tell you that I have my days. I really do. Matter of fact, I had one earlier this week. It's just
Can you say what that day's like, just so that people will know what to resonate with when you have a bad day?
I become very what's the word I'm looking for? Secluded, but within myself. Mm-hmm. I become very quiet. I try to separate myself from everybody and everything. It's a matter of dealing with it in my own mind. And I'll give you a prime example. I think it was, what's today, Thursday? It was Tuesday that I had one of those days. And Ashley said, "Are you okay? What's going on with you?" Right? And it's not something that I really wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. So I'd go, yeah, I'm fine. Just had a hard day. Or you push it off to something else. Right, it's just a bad day at work. This didn't go right. But deep inside, you're just dealing with an aspect of your life that, unfortunately, you still have to deal with.
Right.
It doesn't make me angry like it used to. Now it's just something that I deal with internally. And after a day or two, I'll sit down and I'll talk with Ashley and tell her what was going on. But at the time, I didn't really want to talk about it because I was still handling it. I was still dealing with it.
Are you aware of what triggers that mood or triggers you having to work your way, and reprocess some things?
Jerry, I don't think there's a trigger. I mean,
yeah,
it just out of the blue, it hit me. There wasn't a song on the radio. There wasn't something that someone said. I mean, I was just going through my normal day, and then I don't know. It's so weird how it works, and it's not something that happens all the time. I mean, this is the first time that I've had that type of experience in 6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
But you would say that it could be as regular as every 6 months, even after all this time. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's you still deal with those struggles. You still deal with the pain that's there. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, but I think now that I'm able to finally discuss it and get it out there, that helps a lot.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of people through email and instant messaging and stuff that will send me messages going, "Man, I don't even see how you talk about this."
Right.
If I don't, it's going to drive me crazy.
Sure.
I have to talk about it.
Well, so why don't you, do you have a good, clear place that you feel comfortable starting and let people know exactly what it is that you are talking about?
Well, if you remember last week's pre-show, I shared with you my earliest memory.
Right.
I think that'd be
it's a good place to start.
Yeah, a good place to start, especially when it comes to the topic of this week's show being "Father Knows How to Hurt Me Best."
Right.
My earliest memory, and I don't mind sharing this with you guys at all. I would say I was probably around 3 or 4 years old. I was little. I want to say 3 or 4, and my biological father, who I call the sperm donor, used to wear cowboy boots all the time. So we were getting ready for church, and he'd wear slacks with cowboy boots getting ready to go to church. And apparently I wasn't tying my shoes fast enough for him. And he took my hand, and he placed it on the hardwood floor, and with the heel of his boot, grinded my hand into the hardwood floor with the heel of his cowboy boot, putting his full weight on my hand, because I wasn't tying my shoes fast enough. I don't see how doing that would make me tie my shoes any faster.
Right.
Right. And trust me, I laughed to keep from crying.
Sure.
But that was probably my earliest memory of when the abuse actually started. And throughout the years after that, I can remember many times being told that no one would ever convince him that I was his. He's looked at me eye to eye and told me, I hate you. I wish you were dead. Things like that. And go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, so if it's not too personal, what's the issue that's going on between the sperm donor and your mom? If he is saying to a child, no one's ever going to convince me that you're mine, what's happening here?
I can tell you, I've never seen him hit my mom. I know he was very, very controlling, very, very controlling with her. If she was going anywhere, he had to know where she was going, what time she'd get there, what time she got back. If she went grocery shopping, he had to have a receipt. Just very, very controlling. So I never actually saw him touch my mom. I think that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Sure.
But I think deep down, and I remember my mother telling me this years ago, that he honestly thought that my mom had an affair.
Right.
Right. And she swears up and down that it never happened. To the point she's like, I can tell you where I conceived you and when.
Right.
And I've often joked with my mom, just joking around, going, look, I know I belong to the mailman. That's no problem. Right? Because I'm like, look, I'm 6 foot tall, blue eyes. My sperm donor's 5'5" with brown eyes.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I resemble that remark.
But Ken the mailman was 6 foot tall, blue eyes. So I would joke. And it was my way of trying to lighten the mood of something that was very deep, and very hard. So that was my way of, just dealing with that. I made jokes. Yeah, I know I belong to the mailman. That's no problem. You don't have to tell me, Mom. Right. And it brought laughter, and it brought a smile to both of our face. But I think what it comes down to is I don't think there was anything going on between him and Mom that would cause him to say that, other than the fact that he thought that she had cheated on him, and that I wasn't his.
Right.
And it's funny because in his second marriage, he had a son that is my half brother. I don't hardly know him at all, but he worshipped the ground this child walked on.
Really?
Worshipped the child.
Did he look like him?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dark hair, dark eyes. I mean, he looked like him. And he worshipped the ground this kid walked on. Anything this kid wanted, he got. I don't think he ever laid a hand on him.
Yeah. So early on in your childhood, though, your appearance was already starkly different.
Oh, yeah.
You already looked, yeah. Skin tone was different, hair color was different, eyes were different.
Everything was different. But,
and so he was able, yeah.
Yeah, but if you looked at my mother had blue eyes. She had blonde hair. I had blonde hair when I had hair, and blue eyes. So to me, everybody would look at me and go, well, you look just like your mama.
Right.
Right? And I don't know if maybe that has something to do with it, Yeah. And I think that's why it was so easy for him to physically abuse me, to mentally abuse me. And then eventually it became sexual, So I think...
And at what age did the sexual abuse start?
Around 8 or 9. I would say, around 8, because my mom divorced him at 9. So about a year before my mom divorced him. So around 8 years old. Yeah.
Goodness.
And it was one of those things where, I was told you don't tell a soul type thing,
Right.
And that started around 8 years old. Well, around that time, we're active in church. Every Sunday we're in church. Every Wednesday we're in church. When the church doors are open, the Carey family was there.
Right.
And I would listen to Sunday school teachers, and I'd listen to all these people talk about how much God loves us and how he will protect us and all of this. And yes, I'm 8 or 9, and I'm trying to rationalize this the best way that an 8 or 9-year-old can. God loves me. But yet, he allowed that to continue.
Yes.
And it got to the point to where I remember kneeling by my bed at night and begging God to take my life, because I told him, I said, I just can't take it anymore. Begging God, just kill me, take me. I can't do this. And then the next morning, I'm back up again and facing this terrorist in my mind.
Right.
Facing this man again. And I couldn't understand if God loves me, why is he allowing me to go through this? Just take me. Just kill me. At least then I don't have to deal with it anymore. I don't have to deal with the pain. I don't have to deal with anguish. I don't have to deal with this stuff. I almost cussed.
That's okay.
But it's the concept of I don't have to deal with this anymore. Just take my life, let me get it over with. And it got to the point to where when I was 13, 14, early teens, that I actually tried to take my own life. I just couldn't take it anymore. Because even after Mom divorced him, I still had every other weekend that I had to go spend with this guy. And Mom would make me go. It was court ordered. I had to go.
Was she aware of the sexual abuse?
No. My mom, look, I kept that a secret till I was in my 40s. And it would still be a secret if I hadn't opened my mouth one day and it was a slip of a tongue. And my mom came unglued to the point to where we had to hold her down. I mean, she was headed out the door. She would have killed him.
So you're in your 40s, she's in her 60s.
Yes. Yeah.
So in the chat room, you're getting a lot of love. They're actually saying that they're glad you're still here.
Me too. Thank you, RJ. Me too. I am glad I'm still here too. But
So let's talk about that for just a minute, if you don't mind. Now, I definitely don't want to interrupt your story because I think it's awfully important that people understand the extent to which you suffered and how that played into your perception of religion, how you later found ways around that suffering to be devout.
Sure.
In spite of God not answering your prayers to stop the monster or to kill you. And so, and I think that's important to get to that. But this emotional pain that you were trying to get away from, I'm wishing that there was a way that we could vocalize what that pain is like. And how that maybe the bad day that you had just this week is somewhat of an echo of that emotional pain. It's still something that's kind of bouncing around in your heart, in your mind, you think?
I think that if you press something down long enough, you press these emotions down, something's going to give. And I think what it is that's just a little bit of that emotion that I've pushed down for so many years.
Right.
That's a little bit of it rising to the top. But I got to be honest, Jerry. I mean, I'm not really pressing down a lot of emotion. I mean, not so much now.
Not anymore. You're right.
But we're talking 30 years of emotion that's been pressed down because I had to put on this certain face. I had to act a certain way. I couldn't let anybody know that there was anything going on with me. I was always the guy making people smile, making people laugh. I was the jokester, the class clown, right? And I think the reason that I was that way was because that was my way of hiding the pain. Mm-hmm. I would have people tell me, man, you don't have a worry in the world. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying, dude, you don't even want to know what's going on in the background.
And what is it we're afraid of? Because I think I had a certain amount of that. Now I wasn't abused in the ways that you were abused. We can get to all of that a little bit later on.
Sure.
But I obviously had a very negative effect in my life due to my father and the way he behaved, and then later on his absence. But I too find myself, even to this day, trying to be. My wife will tell you that I'm the most negative and depressive person that she knows, but nobody sees that.
Right.
And what is it that you think we're afraid of showing? You know, if we didn't come out with our clown costume on and make everybody laugh and pretend that everything is okay, then and this has been one of my biggest struggles being in the secular movement. I mean, there's a part of me, and I hope people don't throw up in their mouth when I say this, because there's a love him and hate him relationship out there. But I mean, there's a part of me that desperately wants to be the Tony Robbins of the secular movement. Mm-hmm. You know, the problem is that I'm all screwed up, you know, and he may be as well and just be hiding it better, but hiding it doesn't fit my personality that well. Now, let me say it this way. I can hide it whenever I'm just being the clown and I'm trying to make everybody laugh or trying to just, you know, be positive in a normal setting. But as far as writing a book telling you that I've got everything all together, which is what I would love to do, I just can't do. Mm-hmm. Why do you think, what is it that we're afraid of exposing, of letting loose?
I think for me I think it was my upbringing. You know, the whole suck it up, be a man. You know, men don't cry. You know, you're a wimp. You know, what are you? And he would throw the P word at me. Mm-hmm. You know, suck it up. No more tears. How dare you cry? Right? And it was that mentality that was driven into me. Like even while he was beating me, he was telling me, "Don't you dare cry. You better just take it like a man." Mm-hmm. Right? And I think when that gets embedded into your mind for so long, that I think maybe it's vulnerability. Mm-hmm. You know, you've been forced to be this strong man that you're supposed to be, the strong person you're supposed to be, and you're afraid to show that vulnerability, that vulnerable side. You know, the whole concept of don't cry, show no emotion, right? And then I think a part of it goes back to also is the thought of nobody freaking cares.
Yes,
you know, who cares what has gone on with me? Nobody cares. They have their own issues they're dealing with. You think they want to hear mine?
Right.
You know,
it's kind of like, Bobby, do you get the feeling in those situations like you're having to buy affection? And if you actually show weakness, if you show vulnerability, if you show that you've got problems, it's going to turn people off, because now you're not making them happy. Now you're making them sad, or you're becoming an issue they have to deal with. And there's going to be some kind of rejection from that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because I think people come to expect a certain thing from you, right? Because they've known you. Like for me, all of my friends knew me most of my life. We went through kindergarten to high school together, and they've always known me as this kid that was the class clown, always making jokes. You know. Making other people laugh, making other people happy, which was my way of shoving that pain further down so that no one would see how messed up I am.
Right.
And I think maybe it's just that expectation is that's what they expect you to be.
Yeah.
You know, they expect that from you.
This is, if you don't mind, I'd like to read a part from the book, because it overlaps with what you were just talking about always being the man.
Yeah.
And I think we can continue to move forward from that. This is from Hope After Faith.
Okay.
And so it starts off, I say, Dad was a born daredevil who possessed frighteningly backwards beliefs about what it meant to be a man. to raise a man. When I was an infant, he refused to allow my mother to give me a pacifier. To Dad, a pacifier would just make his son weak. Dad insisted that he be allowed to spank me when I was just a week old. And Dad prevented my mom from rocking me to sleep. He believed that I should be left to cry myself to sleep because that would help make me a man. Dad's rough style of parenting could be as daredevil driven as the stunts he pulled off on his motorcycle. One night, Dad came home drunk, and when he stumbled into the kitchen and then fumbled through the cupboard for another drink, he shattered a glass on the kitchen floor. "It needs to be cleaned up, David," Mom said. "Jerry might get at it." Dad, not only ignoring Mom's plea to clean up the shattered glass, he lifted me up and tried to stand me up in the shards. Mom stopped Dad that night, but the message from Dad's behavior was unmistakable. He was going to do whatever it took to make his baby son tough. And so I see an overlap there of, even though I was very, very young, my dad was killed. He killed himself as a drunk driver in a drunk driving accident, single car drunk driving accident, right before I turned 3 years of age. I can't help but think that those 3 years worth of experience with him, and then the legend. There was just this lore around this man called David DeWitt. I remember these stories of him doing donuts in the mayor's yard, tempting the mayor. I remember these stories of him standing up on the back of his bike going down the highway. I remember these stories of this elderly lady who kept calling him a girl, kept calling him a young lady, and he, standing on the front porch, pulled his pants down, and said, "Does this look like a lady to you?" Just this legend,
Yep.
around this guy, this tough guy, and all the pictures I have of him, are this tough man, and I feel like, whenever and this is where I hope we can go next, but I don't want to leave out any of your story. I feel like that when I begin to move towards my religious journey, that I ended up trying to have a relationship with a God, with a Father, that was filtered through this perception, through this lore, through this experience, even though it was only 3 years, that I had whenever I was, when I was younger.
Yeah, you were preaching now, brother.
That played into this. I had a two-part combination to where I was looking for, and the reason I didn't go into this detail in the book is because I knew that the naysayers, the believers, the Christian critics, the apologetics, the apologists would immediately pull on this and say, well, there you go, his whole Christian experience is null and void because he went into it with the wrong idea, with the wrong attitude, those kind of things. But I feel like, looking back, that I was looking for a God that was one part David DeWitt, the man's man, but then at the same time was also very much like my grandmother, which I talk about all through the book, and people have heard me talk about a lot. That was, at least from my perception at that time, very, very, very compassionate. And so it was this mixed version of God that I think kept me very hungry and propelled me on my journey. Do you feel like it shaped your expectations?
Yeah, because it's funny, because you were talking about God. It came to the point till when I finally got older that I saw God as the father figure. He was replacing the sperm donor, right? He was the one that was giving me the love that my biological father should have given me. He's the ultimate love, agape. He's the ultimate love, and I can easily see how you can replace a living father with a spiritual one.
Right.
I get that. That's why I said you're preaching now, because I think that's what God became to me when I got older and actually started to understand the whole God, what truly was a God concept, and I would spend my time praying. I would spend my time talking to my heavenly Father.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because my earthly father sucked.
Right.
But my heavenly Father loves me no matter what. Never did it dawn on me at the time that the heavenly Father, and I say that sarcastically now,
right,
was in the room the whole time watching my dad do what he was doing.
Yes.
And did nothing to stop it.
Right.
Right?
I had a similar. It's amazing how the believer's mind is able to compartmentalize, and like you said, the Heavenly Father that you are now worshiping and feeling as a surrogate or a substitute for, for the missing love that you were looking for from a father figure, was in the room the whole time you were being abused, all the way back to when that boot was on your hand. Mm-hmm. But yet you're able, something within the mind is able to compartmentalize and put that to the side and only give the good credit, only make this person the hero who shows up and, takes the cat from the tree and doesn't leave all the other cats in the trees.
Right.
It's only the one you're focused on. Because I definitely did that, and definitely felt a real connection, a real sense of completion. I also I had such a mixed relationship with the memory of my dad. I mean, I literally do not have a clear memory of my father because, he died before I turned 3. My earliest memory is really of a picture of him. I can pull together the faintest elements of a memory of when I was very, very, very small, but I don't think it really counts. So on one hand, I missed him, and I guess, to be honest, still miss his presence in my life, and was comforted by the fact that eventually my doctrine got to the place to where it even saved David DeWitt, and I was looking forward to seeing him when I got to heaven, and that was just another person that I had to let go of whenever I deconverted. But at the same time, my earliest, and this sets the precedent for my personality going forward, literally for the rest of my life. My earliest thoughts about myself was, what is so wrong with me that my dad wouldn't want to live with me? That he would rather take a chance with his life by being so drunk. By the time that I could begin to understand what was happening, which was very, very, very early, I continued to question, why would he not straighten his act up in order to live with me? What's so wrong with me? And I still carry that to this day. There is still a lack of self-confidence. It's hard for me to accept someone else's love, someone else's appreciation, because I think the foundation from that original relationship being broken, everything else now rests upon that cracked foundation. Mm-hmm. And so that's extremely, and the more intimate the relationship, the more insecure that I am.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so understand that, because there have been many times, and my wife Ashley would tell you, when we first got together, I did everything I could to push her away. Everything I could do to push her away, because hell, I feel you, man. The whole connection. You're afraid of any connection. You're afraid of any affection that someone else would give you. It's the feeling of, I don't deserve it. Right. It's the self-hatred. Or at least that's what I dealt with. I
think you're right.
With a lot of self-hatred. I dealt with very low self-esteem. everybody hated me. I didn't want to live. And I tried, and she would tell you multiple times for the first 2 years that we were together, I did everything I could to push that lady away.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always done that in all of my relationships, all of them.
And was there ever a weird dynamic where you were pushing her away on one hand and trying to also, win her or deserve her on the other hand, or was it always just one-sided?
It was very much one-sided. One-sided? Yeah. But I think what it came down to is I didn't feel like I deserved it.
Yeah.
You know.
I find myself doing both. I find myself pushing first I find myself always trying to stack up points, trying to be good enough, trying to do things that'll put a star on the chart. Have to be pretty old to appreciate what that means. I think.
Yeah, the gold star, man. Trust me, I'm with you. Hell yeah.
And I find myself to the point of never allowing anyone that I'm in a truly intimate relationship with to probably ever really relax, because I'm just like I got to get another star, got to get another star, but then at the same time, there's this thing in me that will self-sabotage. There's this thing in me that will know that the next sentence that's about to come out of my mouth is not only going to remove a star, it's going to put a lighter to the corner of the board and burn the whole chart down. Mm-hmm. And I can't not say it. I can't not. I mean, it takes. I think I've gotten much better at it, but it takes so much to control that. Like I have to. Like this is too good. This is too good. I grew up in such a conflicted home, a conflicted environment, that there's a part of me, and maybe it's that little child in me, feels more comfortable when everything is turned upside down and everything is a fight and a battle. When it starts settling down and feeling peaceful and connected and like, okay, this is all going to be okay now. There's something in me that's like, oh, this ain't good. This is this is scary.
I do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you think now would be a good time to take a break? And
I need something to drink. Maybe like whiskey or something. I don't.
Well, you gonna get yourself a whiskey. I'm gonna sit here and drink my coffee. But
all right, my friend.
Let's take a real quick break, and then we're going to get back into the topic of Father Knows How to Hurt Me Best. And what I'd like to do, if possible, Jerry, is get into the conversation of how we overcame this.
Absolutely.
How we got to where we are now, how we fought through and are able to stand firm now. Because we've talked about the bad. I'd like to start maybe talking about the good.
Sure.
Okay. So you guys don't go anywhere. Stick around. This is about a 2-minute break. And we come back, we're going to start looking at the good side of Father Knows How to Hurt Me Best. Y'all don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hope After Faith with Jerry DeWitt and Bobby C.
Visit secularmediagroup.com to see how we're changing the world.
Get in on the conversation. Live tweet during the show at Hope After Faith, or join Jerry and Bobby in the chat room on Spreaker.com.
Get sexy with Dr. Darrell Ray and Secular Sexuality. Only on Secular Media Network.
Hi, my name's Callie.
And I'm Ari.
If you're like most of us, you're very concerned about the gay agenda's plans for world domination. Presented exclusively on Secular Media Network, the Gaytheist Manifesto is your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement.
You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, and at gaytheistmanifesto.secularmediagroup.com.
You killer. In the name of your God, in the name of God, you conquered. In the name of your God.
All right, guys, welcome back to Hope After Faith. We're glad that you are still hanging out with us. Now, we've talked about the bad side of abuse, but I'd like to get into, I guess you can't say the good side of it because there's not a damn good side to it.
The English language fails us again.
It does. But how to overcome, how to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and face the world with a newfound self-love, I guess is a good
absolutely.
way to put it.
I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. I can remember my grandmother telling me that before I could ever expect anyone to love me, I'd have to first love myself.
Sure.
And I never could understand that concept. What the hell do you mean, love myself?
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean? But now I'm, 45 years old, and I get it.
Right.
I get it.
I'm just going to be honest with you. It really bothers me that I'm older than you, but you're taller than me. I just get so sick of that.
Yeah, but you're so much better looking. So see,
baloney.
there you go.
That is so ridiculous. They took my books off the shelf because the covers were making the patrons sick.
You are lying. You know it. Told you I'd be 3'9" as long as I had your hair. I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm telling you.
No, but I agree with you that concept of self-love, and I will tell you that is a little bit of a grudge that I have against the secular movement, that every time that I post anything related to the subject of self-love, all the comments just go to the gutter so quick that it discourages me from posting those phrases. But it is important. It really, really is important. One of my absolute favorite human beings on the planet, Bishop Carlton Pearson. I call him Papa. I love him with all of my heart. Years ago, when I was just beginning to make this transition, matter of fact, I was in a hotel room in Henderson, Texas, and got through to him. And I just told him, I said, I feel like I'm someone just walking, like through a 40-acre track. I'm walking, through one fence after another fence, and the space just gets wider and wider and wider. And I said, I feel like I'm just one more gate away from walking into a field of atheism,
Yeah.
And he didn't judge me. He just said, you just have to love yourself. You have to love yourself first. And that really is so important. And I do think ultimately that ends up being, at least for me, my answer to this situation. Not that I'm in any way completely cured or perfect, by any means, but I do think that ends up being my answer.
Yeah. Well, see, Trav said it in the chat room. I have mixed feelings about the phrase, you can't love others unless you love yourself first. What if you have chronic depression? Mm-hmm. That is a great question.
It is a great question, and it's one of the reasons why that I try not to oversimplify when I'm posting on Facebook or anything like that. I hope that we can say what we feel, and we will say enough that it's wrapped up in context and people get the answer. But on Facebook, I'm really, really, really careful, because if it's chronic depression, if it's something that is even clinical, that's a total different situation than just dealing with frustrating thoughts or dealing with some type of emotion that you actually could work your way out of with something as simple as cognitive behavioral therapy or reframing or something like that. There can be physical challenges that will require medication and maybe lots and lots of counseling and things like that. So,
yeah, because it's like RJ said, I would like that statement if it were take care of yourself. And RJ, I agree with you. Because I think ultimately what my grandmother behind the word love has to be taking care of yourself. And she just used the word love. But I understand that it would be better if it was just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? But at some point you have to And I know you guys hate this word, but you have to, at some point, grow to love who you are.
Yeah, and I think it's also maybe another good word. I mean, love sometimes can be ambiguous and hard to define, and sometimes seem a little bit more related to an emotion. How about respecting yourself?
Yeah.
Because that's what actually ended up working for me. I've got an entire list here of trying to find love in all the wrong places, and I don't know how many people would appreciate that reference, but I tried to find that ultimate father figure not just through a heavenly father, but I tried to find a physical representation through at least a half a dozen men in my life that I very unfairly, and sometimes they use this. Sometimes they were the ones being unfair and they manipulated my weaknesses. But I will say, in some cases, very unfairly, I put them on a pedestal and tried to make them that perfect missing father that I wanted in my life. And I mean, it started off with my stepdad. My stepdad had a very, very awkward relationship with me young in my life. He came along not very long after my dad, killed himself, and my mother was still trying to recover from losing the love of her life. And so he walked into a very challenging situation with his own challenges, and we never were able to mesh on that kind of level. So I gravitated towards my mother's brother, my uncle, and had him somewhat as a father figure until he had his own children.
Right.
And I felt like it was my dad dying all over again, because I lost that place. And so then I tried to find it in my grandfather. My grandfather, looking back, actually did become the closest that I ever had to a father figure, but he was such an introvert. He was so quiet and so hidden with his emotions. It didn't feed me in any way. And so as soon as I got into the ministry, boy, you talking about a field ripe with father figures.
Boy, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh. And whether they would ever do it intentionally or unintentionally, they could take advantage of it, just one after another.
But then in that aspect, didn't you see yourself becoming a father figure to your congregation?
I did, and I absolutely loved it. I think one of the things that I've said that might surprise people is, next to hearing my son call me dad, hearing the children in the church call me pastor, that was the greatest feeling that I would receive in all of the ministry, was just knowing that they looked at me, they saw me that way, and that they, experienced our relationship that way. But I still yet was looking for that in some other man's world, because I was afraid of men. I was afraid of men. I was jealous of manly men. I still struggle with that, being 5 foot tall, but I still wanted that. And when it finally, this takes us back to the positive, when it finally broke for me, was the last man that I tried to hold up as a father figure was the current mayor of DeRidder. When I became his chief of staff, I put a lot of emotional investment in him. I completely changed the course of my life to support him and work for him, because what I really wanted to be, and I think some of our listeners will appreciate this, what I really wanted to be is, I wanted to be somebody's Robin to their Batman. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be somebody's Robin to their Batman. People look at me and they think I want to be the Batman, but I really don't want to be the Batman. I want to be the Robin,
Sure.
And that's what I was being with him. And he broke me. He just completely crushed my self-esteem, completely sucked all of the enthusiasm and life out of me. And it finally got so bad that I had to back up and say, what is going on here? Why am I putting all of my respect into someone else and only feeling like I can respect myself to the degree in which they respect me. And that goes back to loving yourself first.
Yeah.
Respecting yourself first. And that was a major, major change. So I think as people graduate from the religion, if you can pull yourself out of the complexities and the very, very deep penetrating ideologies that exist within religion, you can pull yourself out of some of these social expectations and social traditions as well, and see yourself as the person who needs to be respected first so that you can move forward and respect others the way you want to.
I agree 100%. Did you find it healing, some sort of healing, when you had those people that looked up to you as pastor? Did you find some sort of healing in that?
I did. I truly did. And, and I did with my son as well. Having that role as an actual father definitely made a difference. And having those children coming up and looking at me as a father figure in that pastoral role, those things definitely helped my self-esteem. Mm-hmm. But now, to be completely honest, as we had said a little bit earlier in the program, I had already gotten a little jaded, to where you don't necessarily take everyone's accolades and praise completely to heart. And by the time that I'd got to that place in church work, I had seen how fickle people could be and how quick they could turn, that though one part of me would appreciate it, there was another part of me that would not swallow it hook, line, and sinker, and really be healed from it the way that I could have been.
Right, because it stems back to fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It does.
Yeah,
it stems right back to fear.
Yeah, because fear played a huge part in my not allowing people to get close. And I think trust issues. I had a lot of trust issues with people, because I would get to the point to where I would trust someone and then they'd hurt me.
Right.
Right. So it gets to the point to where you no longer trust. It got to the point to where my whole philosophy in life was expect the worst, but hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And when you have that outlook to where you're automatically looking and expecting the worst, that is so negative.
It's what you'll see. There's no doubt about it. It is what you will see every time.
Yeah. And it's so negative. Hell, I'm walking through life expecting people to treat me a certain way. Mm-hmm. Or I'm expecting this bad thing to happen. Why does it so shock me when it does?
Right.
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 And it took some reprogramming, of my thoughts going, no. I deserve the best. It came down last week when we were talking about looking at the person in the mirror, right? Giving yourself that pep talk.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's right.
And this is Tony Robbins-esque, but I don't mean it to be.
Right.
But
it's okay. I love Tony.
But sometimes that self-talk, when the self-talk is positive, does a lot of great things for you. And I know that that's probably woo-woo, and it's probably going to drive a lot of people crazy, me talking about that. But if we're going to do an honest show here, I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. There's many times that I stood in front of the mirror and had a deep talk with the person looking back at me. Had anybody seen me, they'd think I'd lost my damn mind.
Right.
Right? But it was that self-talk. Me telling myself, Bobby, you deserve better than this.
Right.
And it got to the point to where it's fake it until you make it. But then eventually you start to believe that self-talk. And it changes the way you view things, and it changes the direction you begin to go, or the new direction you begin to move toward. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. It makes
Okay.
perfect sense. And Trev in the chat room is has got it nailed just right from the old Saturday Night Live skit. Yeah, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people love me.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
that's funny, but damn it, it works.
It honestly does work. And now this is not trying to create a one size fits all, because there is mental illness, and I don't even like the phrase mental illness, because all illness is physical. Even if it resides within the mind, it's still physical. But there is illness, and there are situations that obviously, looking at yourself in the mirror is not going to be able to reverse. But that's not what we're talking about.
No.
We're talking about things where it can be.
Sure.
And I know from my experience with anxiety, panic attack disorders, with those things, that the self-talk can make a huge difference. And so let's cut to the chase and acknowledge that for those of us that are freeing ourselves from the religious experience of our parents, all right, of what we inherited from our parents religiously. In the secular movement, it's really, really easy to quantify that and say, okay, here's the doctrine, here's the rituals, here's the ideology that I got from my parents regarding religion, and I'm going to work on freeing myself from that. But at the same time, the package is much larger than that, and there's so many other things that we've received from our parents that we may not even be aware of if we do not make it our life's practice to become aware of those things and thus try to overcome them. And where I'm heading to with this is that really adulthood is the practice of trying to overcome what you experienced in your childhood, of what your parents were not able to overcome in their adulthood from what they experienced in their childhood.
That's true.
And so you're just every
so
generation,
true.
you're trying to get it a little better. I mean, obviously, our dads were really, really screwed up. And during their adulthood, they did not overcome what they needed to overcome. And it affected our childhood. And now here we are as adults, and we're having to work our way out of what they were not able to fix within themselves. This is a very important practice for us to engage in. And self-talk is just one tool that obviously doesn't work for everyone all the time, but it's definitely been beneficial to me in many, many ways.
Well, it's a vicious cycle.
It is.
What it comes down to is finally getting to the point to where someone has to break that chain.
Yeah.
Someone has to break that cycle. And what it came down to me is, I remember my sperm donor, his father was brutal, very brutal, right? So if my grandfather was brutal, my biological father was brutal, someone had to break that chain.
Right.
Right? And I decided that I should be that person.
Yeah.
Right. I could continue that cycle. I could continue that chain. I dealt with a lot of anger issues. A short fuse, anything would snap, and I'd get physical, throw things, hit things. But it came down to, I had to break that chain right there.
Right.
But it was a conscious decision to do it, because it was so easy to go back into that. It's so easy to become that person.
Yes.
The hard part was stepping back and going, no, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
That's the hard part.
You know what I found, Bobby, and I think this may give some hope to people. What I found was, let's play off a couple of things. One thing is, I began to feel much better about myself once I transitioned out of religion.
Yep.
Once I began to be honest and saw what guts that actually took to do.
Mm-hmm.
Once I look back at it, and people are like, "Oh, you're so brave," and the old preacher style in me tries to blow all that off and be like, "Oh, no, I'm not brave," And I even came up with all kind of little things like, "Oh, I'm no more brave than a guy who jumps out of a second story window when he wakes up with his bed on fire," trying to shucks, give the Lord the credit.
Right.
It ain't nothing to do with me, praise His name. That old thing. But when I look back at it, I'm like, dang, that really was brave. I'm the bravest person I know.
Sure.
This is really something. Well, that begins to build up some credit. That begins to build up some self-esteem. Then when I add to that all those years that I thought I was going through something that I needed divine help to make it through, and thought that I received divine help and made it through. But now I look back and see that there was no divine help. So it was just me making it through. I'm like, if I can make it through that, I can make it through this. And so what I now attempt to do, and I'm having to agree with some of the folks in the chat room, obviously there's a lot of things that just self-talk's not gonna be able to undo.
Sure.
What I now reach for is the opening that is there. Maybe it's too much to ask for me to completely, and I sense this continuously in my intimate relationships. Maybe it's too much for me to ask, for me to just make my mind up before I go to bed that I'm going to be a different person. And when I get up the next morning, wake up and shine my boots and be a total new Jerry. Yeehaw! That's what I want to do.
Sure.
But when I wake up, I'm still the same
realistic.
person. But even though I can't necessarily pull off a brand new act, what I am finding that I can do is I can just do nothing. Just pause.
Yeah.
Just put the pause just not say. I may not be able to say what I want to say, but I'm finding the ability to not say what I don't want to say.
Yeah.
And just pause. And in that pause, it is similar to looking yourself in the mirror and doing the self-talk. You break that pattern of thought, action, thought, action, thought, action, thought, action, repeating on itself, becoming, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sure.
If I can just pause, it seems to slowly build a little more momentum towards me being able to, say and do what it is I did want to do.
Yeah, because I tell you what, it was in those times during the pause that I found a lot of strength. Mm-hmm. Really and truly. Exactly because right. I know exactly what you're talking about with that pause. I still have to do it today.
Absolutely.
And I'll probably always have to do it because there's always going to be that part of me that wants to speak up and be a sarcastic ass. Right?
Sure.
But
certainly
it is in that pause that you build strength, and you start to rebuild who you want to be.
Yes.
And it's not easy, folks, but it is possible and it is doable because we did it.
Yeah, that's right. We've done it in so many areas. We're currently doing it in other areas. We have hope that we're going to be successful in even more areas. It's part of the growing process. It truly does create hope after faith.
Absolutely.
Because instead of having your hope in a third party intervening in some miraculous way because you have participated in enough supplication to finally earn that favor, all of that power resides within you. Now, once again, just for clarification, this is not in any way to make anyone feel bad who has something that's beyond their power to do. There is counseling for that. There's medication for that. There's a lot of other avenues. So pursue all those avenues. But if you find yourself in an arena where you really can make those changes with the power that exists within you, then you're already proving, dear listener, you're already proving that you have the ability to completely rewrite the story of your life just by the way that you pulled yourself up by your own bootstraps and graduated from your religion.
Indeed.
That's the proof. That's all you need for the rest of your life to know that you can handle just about everything that comes your way.
No doubt. And look, I will top it off with this. Celebrate the small victories. Okay? I can't tell you how many small, tiny victories that I celebrated.
Right.
You know, that is so important. If you are able to pause for the first time, celebrate that.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
celebrate it, because that's a victory. Yes, it's not this big, massive, huge thing. But you have to learn to celebrate the small victories, because those small victories are going to turn into large victories. And that's an even better celebration.
It is, and you have to give yourself credit and appreciate that you're literally rewiring your brain.
Yep. And it is possible.
And it is possible. And it's the very brain that you're using to rewire the brain that you're using to rewire the brain that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so this is no small feat. So yes, I agree with you, Bobby, 100%. Everyone should celebrate the smallest of victories.
Yes, absolutely. And listen, folks, I know that tonight's topic has been deep, and trust me, it hasn't been easy. Okay, I can't speak for Jerry, but I can tell you this has not been easy for me. But I think it's a conversation that needs to be had, because I firmly believe deep within myself that there is someone that is going to hear this episode, and this episode is going to resonate with you. And I want you to understand, you're not alone. Okay, you're not alone. There are others. There's other people out here like me and Jerry and many other people within our community that has battled this and is still continuing to battle it. And we're celebrating those small victories. And I want you to know that we are two people that you can always reach out to. If you ever just need someone just to hear you, just to listen, that's what we're here for. That is where you find your hope after faith. And if it gets to the point that you just need to talk to someone professional, there's something called the Secular Therapy Project. It is through Recovering from Religion. If you get to the point that you need professional help, go over to Secular Therapy Project. They will set you up with a local therapist that is secular. And if there's not one in your local area, they will actually do distant counseling. They will talk with you through Skype. They'll do everything they need to do in order to give you someone to talk to. You are not alone, and we are here for you if you ever need us.
Absolutely. Can I close this section out by reading the victim impact statement from Stephanie Renee?
Absolutely.
Everyone knows Stephanie. I originally met her with the Richard Dawkins Foundation. And anyone who's following her on Facebook probably knows that not too long ago she was mugged, was held at gunpoint, and robbed. And she shared with me her experience. And I realize this is an isolated incident, but it speaks towards abuse and it speaks towards forgiveness. And so in her victim impact statement, she said this. She says, "I don't know why you and your friend felt I was worthy of hurting. You didn't physically harm me, no. However, you sure did scare the daylights out of me with your threat of shooting me and taking my property whilst I was minding my own business and waiting for my Uber to arrive. I don't think I deserved it. I also don't think you're hardened enough to think that I deserved it. Something drove you to do this to me. Though I don't know what, I think you have a chance here to use this experience to grow and learn. It would break my heart if you spent a significant portion of your young life behind bars because you didn't learn or because of an unintelligent decision to harm me. I want to believe that you're better than this and can recognize that what you did was completely uncalled for. I don't want to be wrong about this. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, I want you to know that I forgive you and wish you well in your life. Live long and prosper. When I heard those words, I thought this is the sentiment that I want to speak back to my memories. This is the sentiment that I want to speak towards David DeWitt. This is the sentiment I want to speak towards all of those men that I held up or held themselves up as father figures that let me down. This is the sentiment that I want to speak to myself, the part of me that self-sabotaged, the part of me that lived fearfully and caused more harm than good. This is the sentiment. When it's all said and done, what we really do wish is for everyone, especially ourselves, the people we've learned to love and respect, we wish for everyone to live long and prosper.
Indeed. Yes, and folks, that is Stephanie Renee Gutherism. Go over and friend her on Facebook. I know she'll greatly appreciate it. And you know what? She's right. It's just like I talked about last week. Look in my dad and his eyes and saying, I forgive you.
Right.
Right? That's what it comes down to. Wow. That is a powerful statement from her. Very powerful.
It is.
Oh, boy. Well, you know what? You have to take a deep breath and just let it out.
I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
Look, I still got to drive to Washington, D.C. for Reason Rally this weekend.
Oh, my gosh. We should have had a more upbeat, fun, entertaining Red Bull kind of episode for you since you have to drive so far tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any idea the sacrifice this man has made for this show? And it shows the great love that he not only has for me, but he has for you, the listening audience, that he is producing this show, co-hosting this show tonight, and then driving 800 and how many miles?
841.
All the way up to D.C. to participate in the Reason Rally. I sure wish you and Miss Ashley the best.
Well, thank you. We are looking forward. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take turns driving. We're going to grab us a 6-pack of Red Bull, and then we're going to tackle this thing.
You're going to get this done.
We're going to tackle it. We're going to tackle it. I'll tell you what.
Well, the truck driver in you should be able to just manifest himself and grab a hold of that wheel and be able to put his foot to the metal and put his mind in gear and make these miles slip away like a sweet dream on a cool summer night.
Tell you what, if I could just get my passengers to go to sleep, we'll get there a lot quicker.
You think they'll slow you down?
I know they will.
Is there an opportunity for a break about every 15 to 20 minutes that you need? Somebody's going to need to pull over?
Look, I know for a fact we're going to see a lot of rest areas with the two people that I'm driving with and their bladder, but that's okay.
That's okay. That's part of it.
Okay.
All you need is just a good bedpan.
Oh, I don't know if I want that in the car or not. But guys, thank you so much for the time that you've taken to spend with us tonight. It was great seeing everyone in the chat room: Todd, Wendy, RJ, Trav, and Jan. It was so good seeing you folks in the chat room. Thank you so much for sharing an hour and 15 minutes of your life with us tonight. And if you are listening this in archive, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to tonight's show. We know that it was indeed a deep topic, but it was a topic that needed to be discussed. And I hope that you find some form of encouragement from our show tonight. Jerry and I, when we wanted to start the show, we said we wanted to be naked and bare and just bare our life for the people that are willing to share their life with us by listening. And that is truly what we did here tonight. We both exposed some things that we probably don't talk about that much, but if it helps one person, I can honestly say that it was worth it.
Absolutely.
Jerry, we had some iTunes ratings, some more that came into iTunes that are 5-star ratings. We only had 1. Now we're up to 3. We're moving on up. But
well,
hey, got to start somewhere, buddy.
Right.
Folks, if you want to leave us a rating on iTunes, I can't tell you how much that helps us gain new listeners, gain a better ranking within iTunes. But we had 2 people that left us 5-star ratings, and I want to read these to you guys and give them the recognition for taking the time to do it. We had a 5-star rating that was titled Bobby C. and Jerry D. Very nice.
Love it.
I do too. You notice I called you Jerry D at the beginning.
You did. You surely did. I'm all for it. I think this is exactly the way it should be.
I agree. And it's by, I want to say, Warrack. I'm going to have to spell this for you. It's WARRAKKK. And they wrote, love this podcast. It is raw, it's uncensored, and you get a sense for what these guys really think and feel. They bear themselves emotionally, sharing previously unheard stories, and do it completely unapologetically. 2 episodes in, it is clear that there will be some driveway moments when listening in the car. Their chemistry makes it easy to listen. So, Warrack, and I hope I said that right, thank you very much for those kind words.
Indeed.
The next one was another 5-star rating titled Keeping It Real. Yep, that's us.
We don't know any other way.
We keeping it real. And it's by Flying Since 1986. Said down to earth, honest, funny, and big-hearted. Jerry is a gem. Love you, friend. So that's for you, Jerry.
Well, thank you. I'm a gem, but you're a diamond.
Oh, listen at you.
Oh. Shucks.
Oh, shucks. Well,
so we got to make sure that next week's show we're able to be really silly and get everybody picked back up.
Look, I don't know about you, but I'm about ready for a lighthearted show.
You know, we've dug deep, but you know, we're at the very, very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
And we're laying a real foundation. And, you know, it may be a book that's my memoir, but we're using it as a catalyst to get the both of us.
Sure.
And so I really feel like it's important for people to understand how this affected literally our personalities and the rest of our lives. So we can pick it up from here.
Absolutely. And if you remember right, when I first met you for the very first time, I think my exact words were your book changed my life.
Right.
And it was your book that made me strong enough to come out and say, I'm an atheist. So trust me, folks, his book changed my life. So, hey, go get it.
Thank you. That means more to me than you'll ever know. And Todd is telling us that the 2 of us need to get a room. So,
hey, a lot of bromance around here, Todd.
Todd, that's one of the very reasons I chose not to attend the Reason Rally this year, is because I just felt like that I could not resist the temptation. And to be honest with you, I just think Miss Ashley could whip me.
She probably could, too. She probably could, too. Folks, if you want to find us, you can find us on Facebook.com/Hope After Faith Podcast. And also on Twitter, Hope After Faith, or you can email us at hopeafterfaithpodcast@gmail.com. Now, I will be setting up probably in the next week. Let me get done with the Reason Rally and get settled back here. And I'm going to set up a voicemail line for our podcast, Jerry.
Oh, great.
So that people can call in and tell us how great we are and how awesome we are. Or, hell, if y'all just want to tell us how much you hate us, that's fine, too.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
I'll take the attention any way I can get it.
Shoot, yeah. Hey, negative attention is still attention, right?
Exactly. That's right.
Absolutely.
I'd rather be told no than nothing.
Oh, I hear you. Well, do me a favor, Jerry, and put all of your information out there so when people want to contact you, and tell them where they can find your book, man. They need to get that book and listen to it and read it.
You know, if you go online, the book's been out for a couple of years now, so it's a little spotty to find it actually on the shelves anymore. But if you are wanting a copy of the book, then you definitely need to go to anything such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you name it. You can find it through all the major suppliers. The audiobook, atheistaudioBooks.com, audible.com. I highly recommend the audio. I actually recorded it in the Dogma Debate studio, and so that was a great experience. So I always push the audio over the hard copy. That's my preference. And then if you're just looking for more information about us, then please do feel free to go to jerrydewitt.net. Don't be taken by surprise when it takes you to our Patreon account, and you won't be disappointed at the Patreon account. You're going to find hundreds of hours worth of everything from Wednesday and Sunday messages by me to gaming videos by Paul and I. And so it's a great repository of our thoughts and silliness.
And it is a lot of silliness, but boy, is it fun.
it is a lot of fun.
Is it fun? Oh, all right, folks. Well, thank you very much for hanging out with us. I can tell you from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much. Our closing music is a song titled Last Prayer by Chris Beland from the album Danger of Love. You can purchase the album at beland.bandcamp.com. That's BELAND at bandcamp.com. For Secular Media Group and Hope After Faith, until next week.
Be brave, my friends.
It's lonely when you fade away in a lifetime. And it's lonely when you're out in space with no lifeline. And slowly then you turn around and you notice the length and the time when your heart stops beating. Oh, why won't you come settle down? Stop wasting your time and your mind going on believing. No, this won't change. Lord knows you know I can't tell where I'm going, to heaven or falling in hell are my predictions. I only speak what I have heard, and the sound of your words condemn my soul while my soul is here just bleeding. You know my love, it won't hurt. Stop wasting your time and your mind going on believing. Oh, this won't change.